now on working with Solace on the bow trick. So initially, we need to start with our dog in the stand, right? Good girl. And then we're going to put a cookie on the end of their nose, push back just ever so slightly, and all I'm looking for is a little bit of a collapse in the front end to start. Good girl. If I push too far, too fast, what can happen is my dog will collapse into the down position, which I don't want. And it may take several sessions to get your dog good at bending at the front without collapsing with the down. But eventually, we're hoping to get the dog into this position. Good girl. That's excellent. Ooh, look at her staying there. That's really nice. Good girl. Good. So Solace is pretty good at this. So then the next step would be to fade out the lure that's in your hand. So I'm going to do it with an empty hand. Good girl. But she thinks there might be a cookie. Oops, back up. Back. Oop. Good girl. Good girl. Good. Good girl. Good girl. So I'm fading out the lure. What a good girl. And then the final step to teaching this trick is to add a cue. So the cue might be bow. And so in order to do that, what I will do is I will say the word bow right before I give the visual cue. Ready? Bow. Good girl. That was lovely. Oops, cross my neck. There we go. Ready? Bow. Yay! What a good girl. Good girl. Back up just a little bit. Good girl. Bow. Good girl. And if we repeat it in that order often enough, what happens is when you say the cue, the dog anticipates that you are about to give the visual cue, and they will go into the bow position on a nice verbal cue. Thank you, girlie. Okay, so now we're going to work on teaching the dog how to do figure eights through your legs. In my house, the cue for that is wind. But you can make up any cue that you like. When I'm first teaching this trick, I need to know that my dog is comfortable passing through my legs. And some dogs can be a little bit nervous about that, so you want to make it nice and fun and easy. Toss some treats through your legs. Get them comfortable passing through there. Even if you have to drop a treat almost through first, eventually make your dog comfortable passing through your legs. The next, I like to start with a cookie in each hand. And instead of passing it through the front, I'm going to put my hand behind and I'm going to use that cookie to draw him all the way around. Meanwhile, my second hand is already here. And I'm rewarding him each time he passes through my legs and out to the front. Atta boy. Gambit is very food motivated. Good boy. Atta boy. Nice job. Then I want to start fading out some of the lures. So maybe I don't have a cookie in my first hand. I only have a cookie in my second hand. So he has to have passed around my legs all the way in a figure eight before he actually gets rewarded. But I'm still going to fake him out with my hand. Oops, too bad. There we go. Yes, what a good boy. Yes, what a good boy. So I got him now doing a full figure eight before he actually gets a reward. Once I've practiced that a bunch of times, I can start asking for more before he gets a reward. And I might actually start fading out the visual cue and adding a verbal cue. In order to do that, I'm going to add my verbal cue right before I give the visual cue. Are we ready? Wind. Atta boy. Ready? Wind. That's nice. Okay, so we're going to work now on working on teaching Gambit how to say his prayers. And the very first step to this is getting him to be able to put his feet up on something while staying with his bum on the ground in the sit position. So Initially, you could try doing this on a chair, getting your dog to put their feet up on a chair. You could get them to put their feet up on your arm, but I like to work with their feet up on my leg when I'm in a sitting position. So the first step, as I mentioned, is bringing them to put their front feet up on your leg. Yes, with the bum still on the ground. So I can send him away. Bring him back. Good boy. That's nice. Now we want to build quite a bit of value for having your feet up in this position, because if I don't, then when I try to move to the next step, Gambit will put his feet down. Good boy. Because the next step, good boy, is going to get him to put his head down between his legs. And I could reach in this way, but you can see that Gambit is letting the foot slide off when we do it that way. So I'm going to work from the other side because he hasn't built enough value for keeping those feet up there yet. Good boy. Good. And I'm going to reach in. Oops. Too bad. There we go. There he is. Good boy. As you can see, Gambit is still new at this, and so sometimes he doesn't keep his feet up where he should. Good boy. Good boy. There we go. We're getting that. What a good boy. Now the next step will be fading out the lure that's getting his head to go down between his legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the same motion, but I'm not going to actually have a cookie in my hand, and see if we can't fake him out. Ready? Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. That's very nice. Good job, W. Right. And then the final step to teaching this trick will be adding a verbal cue. So just like in every other situation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that verbal cue right before I begin luring my dog into position and cueing the behavior with a visual cue. So we're going to say your prayers. What a good boy. That's very nice. Say your prayers. Attaboy. And of course, if I repeat the cue, the verbal cue followed by the visual cue frequently enough, the dog begins to anticipate, and as soon as I give the verbal cue, say your prayers, the dog will move into the position without needing the physical prompt. Thank you, Gambit.